Hi guys, Robert here from OmniTechNews.net, and I'm here today with Steve Isaac, and we're going to be taking a look at the TouchFire for iPad. So today we're going to be taking a look at your awesome creation for the iPad 2, the TouchFire.
That's right. The thing about TouchFire is it lets you touch type on the iPad's virtual keyboard, and it does it in a way that is natural and works very well with the rest of the iPad's touch interface. So instead of a Bluetooth keyboard which sets up the iPad in this sub-notebook kind of style where you have to, use your fingers down below and then you're, sort of unnaturally trying to edit things like this. TouchFire works just in the way that the iPad was really designed to work, where your fingers are just inches away from the text that you're entering. So it just works in a very natural way that people might not realize when they first see it, but after they use it for literally a few seconds, they go, "Oh my God, this works so well! This is just in the DNA of the iPad."
Yeah, I mean, instead of carrying around this massive bulky keyboard, you've got nice, slim, what looks like just be a bit of a rubber just on your iPad, and it looks really great, honestly. It's so small and definitely a great accessory for the iPad. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about how you get started on Kickstarter. That's where you're currently funding the project right now. So Kickstarter, for people that don't know, it's a website where people can start projects for their own creations and then get people to fund it with incentives and other cool prizes. So Steve has set it up on Kickstarter, the TouchFire, and why don't you tell us a little bit about how you found Kickstarter and why you're using it?
Yeah, so Kickstarter really is an amazing thing. It's crowdfunding. It lets somebody like me, now, TouchFire is two people. It's me and Brad, and we've been heads down for the last year figuring this out. This turns out to be a very hard thing to actually do, what we did with TouchFire. So here we are. We've now got it to the point where we're going, wow, this thing is really working. So what do we do next? Kickstarter turned out to be the perfect place to launch a product like this from two guys in a garage, because it lets you get a pretty wide audience from the get-go, and it's really designed to nurture these kind of projects. So we set a funding goal that we thought, well, seems reasonable. Let's see what happens. So the way Kickstarter works is you set an amount of money you wish to raise, and you set a time in which you wish to raise it. And if you succeed in raising it within that time, you get funded. If you don't succeed in getting it in that time, it all just disappears and nobody's credit cards get charged and nothing happens. So it's a bit of a gamble as well for us. Well, we raised met our $10,000 goal in 5 days. Wow. And yeah, it's crazy. So what happened was, all of a sudden, and this is the other thing that's so beautiful about Kickstarter, if people like what you're doing, it can spread all over the world, and fast. So we, 7 days in, we've doubled our goal. At this point, I think we're 4x. I mean, we'll have to check because it's it just keeps on going. And so it's a venue that allows a good product to shine. Now, not so good products, well, they don't do so well. But if you think that you have a product that's actually exceptional and you want it to get out in the world, Kickstarter is a great way to do it.
How did you think of the idea for the TouchFire for the iPad?
So I've actually been in software for quite a few years, and I was at Sun Microsystems during the early days. This was maybe a little bit before your time, but after Sun, I went to a company called Go, and what Go did was make one of the world's first tablet computers. It's kind of amazing. We did this in the late 80s, early 90s, and the computer that we made looked almost exactly like an iPad, except it had ears where we put speakers and microphones and such. And it's very funny to sort of compare the two. So I was involved in building tablet computers and building operating systems for tablet computers from a very early point in the evolution of the industry. Go was an amazing company. We built an operating system from scratch that worked with a pen, that worked in a mobile environment, and we did a lot of things that no one had ever done. It was pretty amazing. Unfortunately, Go didn't go. Go ended up crashing and burning. After quite a few years of trying, it was bought by AT&T, but they chose to basically close it down. So fast forward about 20 years, the iPad comes out, and I was just totally blown away. It just knocked my socks off. It was so many of the things that we had dreamed of 20 years ago and had started, and the iPad sort of finished, except for input. So input is the hardest problem with tablet, with tablet computers, frankly. And so here we are, 20 years later. The input mechanism, typing on the iPad, was leaps and bounds better than anything that had come before it, but it still wasn't amazing. And it got me thinking, and I just went, I want to use my iPad everywhere. I want to use it for everything. How can that be done with input? And I got to thinking about what was missing, and what was really missing was a tactile layer on top of on top of the virtual keyboard. So I started prototyping something out of very, very thin silicone. And I'm not an industrial designer or mechanical engineer, but I got it to the point where the concept was proven, where it looked like, wow, there's something here. I think this could actually be something. It's a very hard problem. So I went and found an industrial designer, mechanical engineer, and his name is Brad Millman, and Brad turned out to be perfect because he was able to, go where I had to stop. And he came up with some of the absolutely brilliant ideas for making this actually work. Because what you can do with TouchFire is you can rest your fingers on the keyboard. You can just rest your fingers here. The touch screen is not actuated accidentally. But when your brain says type, then it works. It just works. And that turned out to be very, very hard to do. And Brad had some incredible breakthroughs to figure out how to do it. So that's really, in short and possibly in long, the way you might have to edit. That's the way the TouchFire came about.
So, Steve, how does the TouchFire really work?
So, making something that you can touch type on, or type on if you're even two-finger typing, in one sense that was easy. The thing that we had to do was make it so that it was so thin and light that it would just disappear when you weren't using it, so that you could carry it with you everywhere. So one of the things that we did is we allow TouchFire to live in the case of the iPad. So when you're not using it, you can roll it up. You can fold the iPad cover in half. It basically disappears. So, and look at how thin it is. When it's closed, you just don't even know it's there. Another thing that we wanted to do, and if you want it, you just hold down the tab and boom, there it is. It's like a magic trick almost. Another thing that we wanted to do was make it so that if you wanted to use a full screen, TouchFire would get out of the way quickly. And the way we do that is, boink, you can just fold it down, and it just stays there, again, with magnets. We have a lot of magnets in here. When you want to type again, you just flip it up. So that's another very important thing that we designed, and the only way that we could make that work was by using an extremely thin, extremely flexible silicon surface. So TouchFire actually aligns with magnets. So there's magnets in the bottom section here, and there's magnets in the iPad over here. And so you can just boink, put TouchFire on, and it snaps into place and just lines up. So those are some of the features of TouchFire in addition to typing that we thought were very important.
So Steve, where can people get this awesome accessory for the iPad 2?
They can go to www.touchfire.com. That points right at our Kickstarter site.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being here today. Really enjoyed the interview.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, guys.